Welcome along to the 6th programme in the 2012 season for the Logson Group Porsche Championship. Preparations underway in the garages on this wonderful venue. Of course, you mention the names of Brands Hatch and Silverstone to anyone. Everyone immediately knows what you're up to. We caught up with Ian Loggy in the pits.
So Ian, here we are at Silverstone, round 5. I believe you've had 3 outings this year yourself. How's your season so far?
Yeah, first outing at Alton Park went okay there, got a 5th, but a bit sticky after that. They finished 8th at Cadwell and got a bit frustrated with the car, etc. So here at Silverstone we've decided to switch cars, and I'm now in the Union Jack car behind me. Hopefully will go quite well this afternoon.
Weather seems to be on our side at the moment. Do you have any preference, wet or dry, as regards to racing?
I think I would prefer it to be wet at the moment. Although I'm not complaining about the sun, it's been great this weekend. The Mark 3 Boxsters, the 987 tends to perform better in the wet. I would feel anyway. But yeah, I'm not going to hope for the wet just to try and get on the podium. I'd rather it's sunny and have a good couple of races in the dry.
Excellent, well, thanks very much and good luck for race 1.
Excellent.
Here's the grid for round 11. Steve Boyles on pole position with Rich Styron alongside, then Richard Sykes and Guillaume Grichet, David Bierman and Arjo Josh on row 3, followed by Mike Seller and Ian Loggy, Paul Moraviec and Chris Valentine next from Nick Hull and John Bierman. Then it's Steve Brown and Bernie Printy, Steve Potts next, David Hornsey the 924 pole from Alistair Kirkham, Simon Hawksley and Rebecca Jackson, Mark McKenzie and James Atherton, Tony McVinsky and Philip Waters, then Linda Warren and Carl Rossin. A couple of cars having problems in qualifying with lap times disallowed, and also those cars exceeding track limits at Copse Corner. There's a big runoff at Copse if you continually get your car over the white line. It's been a real theme this year. In fact, the last couple of seasons. Away they go. Steve Boyles in black. His first pole position, gets away well from Richard Styron on the outside. Styron in the Taylor's Foundry car. Going through, here we go with Guillaume Grichet, overtaken by Arjo Josh, 44, white 44, the Sussex man. Arjo makes a brilliant start as they go down to Copse for the first time. What a great sight, these cut into Maggot's corner for the first time, and in front it's Richard Styron. Here's Guillaume Grichet, Arjo Josh spins it around. Arjo Josh in the spin, I think it might have been John Bierman who he was with, but they're around Beckett's corner and now down the main straight for the first time. The Wellington straight here at Silverstone leading into the complex, and this is an area where you might see some overtaking. Oh, he's attacked there! Bierman on Mike Seller in car number 33, back bumper hanging off. I think he'll probably be able to rejoin. Goodness me, it's all going off. Steve Brown, you can see there in car number 2. He is the leading production or low-fat Porsche, which is a term coined by the championship coordinator John Clark, which I've got to say I really love that. You can pick up a production Boxster for a very inconsiderable sum. A lot of the drivers that are coming in to the productions are talking about upgrading to Class A, the full race modified class, and the upgrade is just probably a couple of £1,000. Problems, Arjo. It was Arjo Josh involved in that incident on lap 1, and I think he's going to be out of the race. Good work by the marshals to attend to him as we look at the second place car. Steve Boyles, an incredible pole position for Steve. 66.564 seconds, 3/10 quicker than multi-race winner Richard Styron, who leads this one up back in 3rd place. As you heard, a change of cars, and it's Richard Sykes in 2nd position, the Union flag livery car, the one that we normally see Richard driving, of course driven by Ian Loggy this weekend, qualified in 9th. So we'll see whether Psyche is perhaps more at home in the green and white car, and there's a spin for car number 15. Off in the 924s goes Philip Waters. Of course, the 924s Some of them fairly aged now, but still a very well supported championship. And of course everyone wanted to come to this round. Last time out we were at Brands Hatch with 3 races, and rounds 11 and 12 this weekend at Silverstone. The next round, if you're able to get there, is at Rockingham Motor Speedway in Corby. 2 races there, but pretty much a good start by everyone. We'll go back and pick up a little bit of 924 action. Rebecca Jackson in 0. Car number 8 is Simon Hawksley. Simon, who's taken 3 podia so far this year, including a 2nd position and fastest lap in race 2 at Brands Hatch. But here is John Bierman dicing with Ian Loggy. Loggy in the Union Flag livery car. Bierman can't quite get through. Bierman's lap times disallowed from qualifying due to overtaking under yellow flags. And if you have a look at the distance from the track to the outside of the circuit, sometimes yellow flags can be a wee bit difficult to see. Of course, the other drivers, I guess, have seen it. A lot of it depends on circumstance in qualifying, but John taking the punishment on the chin and starting to try and cut his way through the field. Back down the order, another one of the production, the low-fat Boxsters, is car number 26, Bernie Printy, in the black one, newcomer to the championship. So we welcome Bernie along, and Bernie's probably in with a shout of a decent result. He's with only 3 drivers, of course. He's the 3 race finishes he took at Brands do count. Took a 3rd in class in race 1, and then 2 seconds in the other 2 races. Bernie, no doubt, enjoying his championship induction, as it were. So there he is in the 26 car at the moment, being chased by Mark McKenzie in car number 10 as they come back onto the Water Straight again. Through Beckett's they go, and down there's the fastest part of the track. But meanwhile we go back to the leaders. Now we've got to change for 2nd position. Up into 2nd goes Psyche. Richard Sykes now chasing Richard Styron into Copse Corner. Look back at some of the other top 6 runners. 63 Paul Moraviec comes over from Switzerland in his silver grey car. He's being chased by the leading production Boxster, the Class B car of Stephen Brown. But we go back again. Richard Sykes still there in 2nd place. Richard Styron out front at the moment. Styron from Sykes. These 2 pretty evenly matched, as you can see. Down the Wellington Straight and into the Brooklands complex they go now. Let's have a quick look at the lap times that these guys are posting. A wee bit slower than qualifying from yesterday, and at the moment the best lap, Richard Styron, a 107.081 on lap 2. That's the fastest of the lot. Steve Brown fastest in the productions, and David Hornsey, who was the pole position man in the 924s, is leading that class as well. So good news for David in the number 14 car when we get to have a look at it. Now, David retired from the first race of the year at Alton Park, so it's good to have him back in the championship. A pole position is a good reward for, I guess, time prepping the car and time out of it. But at the moment, here we go then. Richard Styron is still there in the 99 car. Richard's had a disappointing start to the season, as we've said on all the other shows, but since then has not been off the podium. He's a real hard charger, very difficult man to beat. And this is the view from David Hornsey, the man we were talking about in the 924s. Great to have him back in the championship and running well in the lead of the 924 class. But we go back to the overall lead, the Boxsters. They're coming up onto some traffic. And look at that, a move there on the inside as they go through the Brooklands complex. Richard Styron coming under big pressure from Richard Sykes. The change of car seems to have worked for him, and he's certainly taking the battle at the moment to the race leader. So Sykes in the 21 car, of course, a triple winner at Snetterton. He's hardly been off the podium as well. He had a trio of 4th places and a fastest lap at Brands Hatch. 27, he caught a look off there, and off goes James Atherton. James Atherton, race winner in the 924s at Snet race 1, takes a spin. He's not going to get the win today, but it was a very quick rejoin onto the circuit. Here come the leaders starting to make their way through the back marker traffic here at Silverstone. Some of the cars, of course, the 924 cars, probably some of the the production Boxsters, and maybe some of the main class Boxsters are going to find themselves lapped. The back markers, you can see the blue flags were being waved along the straight. And at the moment, Richard Styron getting the better of the run. There's James Atherton, who we saw take the spin. Look at the nice wide line by Atherton. Respects the guys coming through in the Boxsters. And hanging on to lead position, the 99 car of Richard Styron had to wait for Cadwell Park for his first win of the year. Took 2 of them there. Second position in the first race at Brands Hatch, a win in race 2, and second position in race 3. Fastest laps in both of those. So he's very much the man on form and the one they want to beat as we look at Alistair Kirkham, championship leader. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 class wins for Kirkham so far this year. The 924 still have a great deal of life. You can still pick the cars up and come and race for an absolute snip. It's such a competitive on circuit championship and competitively priced championship too. So the Beermans having a little run there as well, which is good to see. David and John. David in the 87 car and John Beerman in the 3. There is David, car number 87. Had the first 3 races of the year on the podium. 2 wins, of course. 1 in the opening race at Brands Hatch and the second win in our final televised race down at the Kent circuit, as we go back and pick up Mark McKenzie in car number 10, who's running well and on course, I think, for a 924 podium in this one. So through go the cars again. The race leaders having to deal with the traffic here at Silverstone, but still out front. Richard Styron from Richard Sykes. Steve Boyles, the pole man, is back in 3rd place ahead of Guillaume Grichet. Then it's the Beermans, and I wonder if it's going to stay that way for the second half of our 20-minute race here at Silverstone. Race leaders still working their way through the traffic. Join us after the break for more.
Welcome to another episode of Racing No Filter. Joining me in sunny California, Bill Wood, and down in sunny Florida, Peter King.
We're going to take a look at some of the products HPD has created for the 2012 Honda Civic, and specifically we're going to show you how to install an adjustable sway bar.
Until then, folks out there, you take care.
Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome back to Silverstone, round 11 of the Logson Group Porsche Championship. We're looking at David Beerman in 87, chasing his brother John in car number 3. John, fresh from 2 retirements at Brands Hatch, he'll be very keen to post a good result here, but times in qualifying were disallowed. Meanwhile, in the 924s, the race leader is the returnee to the championship. We're not looking at motor, Rebecca Jackson there in car 0, who is there, the racing journalist, and Rebecca took a win at Snetterton, so race-winning driver. He's so competitive, the 924s. Number of different winners we've had. Now the race leaders working their way through the traffic. Rebecca Jackson trying to pass Mark McKenzie. Rebecca in the white car, McKenzie in the blue and white car on the outside, and Rebecca's through on the inside line. Good driving from the lady driver. Through Maggots they come now. That's the kink to the left. Then it's tight round to the right as they come into Beckett's. Richard Sykes still there in second position, car number 21, but Richard Styron starting to build up a little bit of a lead. This is going to be a little bit of a cushion for the 41-year-old from Leeds, company director of Styron Motors. You might remember the name Steve Styron years gone by, racing in supercarts. We go back to the Beermans. It looks like David's got past John. They're working their way through the traffic, and that can sometimes play into the hands of the faster cars as they come through, and the chasers. We had a quick look there at Steve Brown, who's the championship leader in the productions. Of course, Steve moving up from the 924s. Very much got a ladder now in this Porsche Championship, with, I guess you would say, the entry-level class being the 924s. From there, you can move up into the production Boxsters, brand new for 2012. And you're looking at, you probably get a standard road car available from about 6,000. That's what they're quoting in the championship regs, and get a car on track with all the safety gear for less than £10,000. And then, if you want to, move up to the main Boxster class, the more modified class. And some of the drivers are jumping straight into the Class A's rather than doing the other route. And that's absolutely fine, but it means if you haven't got the budget or the confidence to do that, you can just drop back. 99, Richard Styron, well amongst the traffic, passes the number 7 car of Alistair Kirkham, I think for the second time. So Alistair, after his spin earlier on, a little bit adrift of things at the moment. This race hasn't gone to plan for him, but Styron, fastest man on the circuit. Richard Sykes, his best time, also on lap 2, a 67.1. There's not a lot between the best laps. David Hornsey, 924 leader, gets past. Hornsey running very well indeed. In terms of the overall race, he's 13th at the moment, and he's a lap down now. I think we're going to be heading for 18 laps in this 20-minute race. You can see the marshals waving the blue flags heavily here at Silverstone for the 924 drivers. And there is Styron, superb. Styron style, you might say, as he goes around Beckett's down the straight once again. He's put a big gap between himself and Richard Sykes in second place. Through goes Psyche past David Hornsey. Look at the gap that Hornsey has got at the moment in the 924s. So Hornsey from Simon Hawksley in second position. Simon Hawksley, if we get to have a quick look at him on circuit, running in the number 8 car, joined us for round 2. He's been an ever-present since then. Picked up a couple of podia on the way, one at Cadwell, one at Brands Hatch. So Richard Sykes continues his chase of the race leader, Richard Styron. It's been real good between those two. The Beerman's still fighting it out, so it's David out front at the moment. He's really had a game cat and mouse with his brother here. And David Beerman in 87. Fresh from his race win at Brands Hatch. Good brands for him, 2 wins and a second place. And he holds the upper hand at the moment on his brother John, who's not had the best of seasons, it's got to be said. 3 retirements, and other than that 4 6th places. So John looks like at the moment he's on course for another 6th place, unless he can get the better of David, which we saw him do earlier on. So those guys up amongst the traffic as they go down the main straight once again, and you can see how busy it gets. They're clearing the back marker traffic very well indeed. It's the number 10 car of Mark McKenzie, who's got back in front of Rebecca Jackson. You can see there in white. At the moment, Mark McKenzie on for 3rd place in the 924s, that blue number 10 car. We come then around that final turn here at Silverstone and onto the main straight. It's a real iconic shot, this. Of course, they're not using this part of the circuit as the start of the Formula 1 Grand Prix these days. Silverstone, a massive venue with lots of different circuit configurations. As we look at David Hornsey in car number 14, the ex-Caterham racer, comes from Reading, 35 years of age. Started racing as soon as he left school. Not a bad thing to do, is it, to try and fire you up, and had the support of his late father in racing. And had a few years out, came back to racing in 2007. There's number 2, the leading production class car, Steve Brown, still running well. Steve Potts is in the race as well. We haven't mentioned him. We did mention Bernie Printy, who's in the class as well. There is the last of the podium men in the 924s. Rebecca Jackson coming under a bit of pressure now as well. Out go the pit signals, so we're very much into the later stages of this Logson Group Porsche race. Of course, the championship administered by the British Racing and Sports Car Club. It put on some superb action up and down the UK. Check out their website if you want to get the chance to see more action like this in the flesh, as it were. The great thing about BRSCC events is that you can come down, you can enjoy a full day's racing, but you can walk around the paddock and meet the drivers. And if you've got young ones, some of the drivers will let the young ones sit in the cars as well, which is great. As we got a challenge here Down the inside goes Anthony McVinsky. Tony McVinsky fourth in class, but too hard into the corner and spins it around. Rebecca Jackson, cool as you like, almost. You got the feeling Rebecca knew that was going to happen. That was a very fast entry into Brooklands. Didn't work. Let's go back to the Biermans. It's still David Bierman holding on in the 87 car ahead of his brother. These two have had a superb race and are still very, very close indeed. But out front, it's Richard Styron, still got that little cushion over Richard Sykes in second place. Sykes too far back to make a challenge at the moment. We've seen Sykes, of course, dominant in the championship before, but it all changes when you go to different circuits. I wonder how much changing cars is off-putting for Richard, because a lot of drivers like to get comfortable with their car, and although they're the same spec cars, by and large, of course, the championship regulations make sure of that. I'm wondering whether chopping and changing is a good idea. I mean, Richard knows what he's doing, but anyway, second position's a good result for Sykes if he can hang on to it. Back down the order, car number 25, Steve Potts, we mentioned him, the second of the production, the Class B cars, is about to be lapped by the race leader, who's been superb with a trad. John Bierman spins. John Bierman in car number 3 spins out from 6th place. I think he might have had time to rejoin before Nick Hull and David Hornsey. Well, it very nearly came a cropper as race leader in the 924s, but he negotiated that well. Again, that's a potential problem that you can have in the 924s. One of the faster car spins, and they're not even dicing for position. He was a lap down, as you would expect on specification. But Hornsey dealt with that real well. There is Richard Sykes in second place, cutting his way through the traffic, and here is the race winner. It's a win once again for Richard Styron, who takes it from Richard Sykes. The 924s are busy having their race, and it is still David Hornsey who is leading this one at the moment. David Hornsey's going to be going for the win. The production Boxster class goes to Stephen Brown, and there taking the flag is David Hornsey, the Reading man, the ex-Cape Superlight driver, who pats his crash helmet. Well, he's got his dad's initials on his crash helmet and feels that his dad's always watching over him, and that's him giving his dad a hug. What a great performance. That would have made his dad real proud. Here are the results. Rick Styron takes the win. Richard Sykes second from Steve Boyles from pole. Guillaume Grichet fourth from David Bierman, and John Bierman, after that half spin in car number 3, recovers for 6th position. A cracking race as ever from the Boxsters. Stephen Brown wins the production from Stephen Potts and Bernie Printy. David Hornsey, we've just seen, taking the 924 win. Simon Hawksley second, and Mark McKenzie in third. Let's go down into the paddock and talk to the top drivers.
The Logson Porsche series this year is very, very competitive. The Taylor's Foundry team and myself have had to work so hard this weekend to try and find a setup advantage, and Richard Sykes, who was second, had exactly the same car setup, and we had a great race, very, very close. And then things like your tyres, the brakes if they're going off, the traffic, all came into play. And just as we came across some 924 traffic back markers, we made a little second gap and kept it to the finish. So I'm delighted. That was a fantastic race. And before I forget, great congratulations to Steve Boyles on his first ever pole position.
The race was good, made a really bad start, got a load of wheel spin straight off the line, which allowed Richard to come alongside me, and he took me on the first corner. I managed to hold on to second place for probably 2 or 3 laps. Then Richard Sykes made a real tight move down the inside, coming to one of the corners in the complex. He pushed me out of the way. It was a good overtaking move. And he just managed to pull a good gap on me, about 100 metres or so, and I kept that for the rest of the race. I just couldn't reel him back in, and he didn't pull any further gap either. Lost a bit of concentration halfway through the race, but I think if I had thought about it more and kept on it more, I could have finished better. But really happy with the first podium, and the pole position was brilliant.
Well, I really enjoyed it. It was started third, finished second, but racing against Richard Styron mainly for most of the race. In the third car of the weekend, actually, we had started with the 987, then my old 986, and I decided to race with Ian Loggie's Mark 1 986. So yeah, very interesting with the new car.
Yeah, loads of good fun out there. Alistair was pushing really hard for the whole race. He was within a tenth of my lap times the whole time round, so I couldn't make a single mistake and just had to keep on it. Then unfortunately he had a little bit of mechanical issue right at the end and dropped back, which gave me a comfortable win in the end, but yeah, it was hard work.
With so much racing going on in the world, you'd have to be a four-headed monster to keep up with it all. Luckily, we have that. Join Peter Keane, Bill Wood, Errol Tucker, and their guest driver analyst each week for an opinionated look at the news coming out of the racing world. Remember, it's GoRacingTV.com for all your racing and video needs.
Here's the grid for our second race. Richard Styron on pole, this time with his arch rival Richard Sykes alongside a cracking field of 12 Class A Boxsters. In fact, we've got 13 because Chris Valentine qualified down behind Steve Brown, who's on pole position for the production 924s. Steve Potts is second in class. Now the 924s, David Hornsey on pole ahead of Simon Hawksley, Mark McKenzie third, so pretty much the way they finished the first race. But 27 cars on grid here at Silverstone. This is the view from Guillaume Grichet, who lines up fifth on the grid, down behind David Bierman, and Ian Loggy giving us his on board as well. Remember, this is the Union flag car that we've seen Richard Sykes running with over the course of the season. So David Bierman in 87 qualifies fourth for this one, and all looks well as they come up to the grid. Back with the 924s, car number 42, Linda Warren, lady racer, running well. 66 next to her is Cole Rossin. First we've seen of those two to speak of in this meeting, but here is the view from the man who took his first race win of the season, second meeting of the year for David Hornsey. Absolutely loving his racing, dedicated the win to his dad, which is superb. Racing a family sport very much, of course. It looks like a cracking start by them all. We've got extra runners in this one, and it's a good start once again from Richard Styron in car number 99, who absolutely storms away from pole position. David Hornsey's not got in his own way because Simon Hawksley gets a good start. This is the view from Ian Loggy. Right in the thick of things is Ian as they go down into Copse Corner for the first time. Guillaume Grichet, I'll tell you what, it is so, and a spin! Spin for Guillaume Grichet. That is a heart-stopping moment. He's facing the wrong way. Look at the car split. Oh, bang! No, that's what we were worried about happening. That is bad news for the start. It's when you get an incident on the first corner, it's so crowded, it's so easy to beat offline. There's the tap. It was Rebecca Jackson, the fast lady racer, just off the podium in race number 1 that clipped the 74 car. To be fair, it could have been a lot worse. Rebecca would have certainly been unsighted going around that corner. And, you know, even if they'd have been using the one-way radio system, as well as yellow flags from the marshals, that would have been a difficult one. I think any damage is bad damage, but I think it could have been a lot worse. So that the view from Ian Loggy in car number 24. Now, I said he was in the Union flag car, and of course I've got that wrong because he's changed cars. He's in the red machine this time. So it looks like the Union flag is probably running at half mast. There's the debris on the circuit. Now the marshals, unless you've got a safety car, might have to try and clear some of that, because might be the sort of thing that could certainly put drivers off, but possibly puncture tyres. Good to see Adam Croft in the race in the Martini livery car. There is Guillaume Grichet. He is okay, thankfully. As I said, it could have been a lot worse. Adam Croft in the number 5 car, up in the mix here with 33 Mike Seller. There is Adam, the 34-year-old from Harrogate. Taylor's Foundry car, and always one of the front runners in the Boxsters, but at the moment it's Richard Styron out front from Richard Sykes. Steve Boyles back with the 924s enjoying their racing. Car number 7, Alistair Kirkham, looking to pick up a few points here. David Hornsey certainly the man that wants to beat them today. So David Hornsey, and he's passed for the lead. Mark McKenzie makes it through into the lead of the 924s as we go back and look at Adam Croft. Mike Seller behind him. David Bierman in 87, busy chasing them down. So a couple of penalties on the qualifying again from the separate qualifying session that led to the grid for this race. Car number 25 having a time disallowed. That's Steve Potts, due to exceeding the track limits. I think he was the only casualty actually from qualifying for this race. Race format for the Porsche Championship, 2 or 3 races depending on the schedule that's available at the circuits. And if you're in any doubt, have a look at the website for the Logson Group Porsche. If you just Google Logson Group Porsches, you'll find the website. It's a superb little site as Ian Loggie tries to hunt down Adam Croft and company up ahead of him. Adam Croft, in fact, two cars ahead of Loggie at the moment. Back with the 924s, Mark McKenzie in the 924 lead at the moment, and this is turning out to be a little bit of a race here for David Hornsey. So Hornsey second position. Let's see what he can do about Mark McKenzie out front. McKenzie taking the wide line here. Going through Maggot's corner and the line into Copse. He's done it, he's through. You don't see too many overtakes there, but there was a door left open. They're panel bashing. It looks like the touring cars are in town. A little tap as they went through. It's a wave, they acknowledge each other. Good sporting driving between the two of them. That's lovely to see, but it's Mark McKenzie, the hotelier, who gets back in front as they come down the straight. The BRDC centre you can see on the right into the Brooklands Luffield complex now. Left-hander at Brooklands, well, we're going back and picking up David Bierman and, John Bierman in car number 3, then Adam Croft, then it's his brother David. So, oh no, David is ahead, isn't he? So I'm getting me yellows muddled up before we get a chance to see which car's which. It's Mike Seller in the second of the yellow cars that we saw there. Now already race leaders up into back marker territory. There is David Bierman, 4th place at the moment. Steve Boyle's running in 3rd, the black 77 car. And what a great pole position. Fantastic to hear in the interviews Richard Styring congratulating him on his first pole. It's such a sporting championship. And talk of the devil, there is Richard Styring coming down the straight into the complex. Brooklands. Then into Luffield and then through into Woodcote, back onto the main straight. All of those very evocative names in British motor racing. I'll tell you what, the guys love coming and racing on these circuits. The disappointing thing for Silverstone, when you're commentating on national racing, national level racing like this, is that you could even come to a touring car meeting, film that, and you tend to get very few people in the grandstands. It always looks like nobody's here, but there are a lot of people here at Silverstone today. And remember, this track, all the facilities built for hundreds of thousands of people to come and watch the Grand Prix, but you do get people coming to watch these meetings and they enjoy them, as we are enjoying this battle of the 924s, and Mark McKenzie gets speared. Oh, this race, well, they were waving happily at each other earlier on. I'm not sure if they're going to do it. This is the view from David Hornsey. Looks down the inside, bang, into car number 10, Mark McKenzie, who is going to drop right the way down the order. So whether these two are going to be matey after the race or not remains to be seen. Hornsey continues with damage. I think Mark McKenzie has as well. There goes the bonnet. Flips up in the air on track, or a piece of bodywork at least. So that was the race lead. That is a very battle-scarred car. He's been getting it ready all through the season. So David Hornsey with some work to do in Class C, and Mark McKenzie was very keen to take the battle to him and finds himself down the order. So back we go with Adam Croft in car number 5, busy chasing the number 3 of John Bierman. John's brother David up ahead of him at the moment. The car's coming through some back marker 924 traffic, and Adam Croft down the inside. So Croft makes up a play. So Adam Croft is there. Mike Seller down behind them. Then we've got the runners going through. John Loggy, Nick Hull, Arjo Josh still in the mix as well. A very competitive top 10 in the Boxsters. So Adam Croft now up into 5th position. It's Richard Styron out front, Richard Sykes second, then Steve Boyles from David Bierman, and here is David, who is still looking at the rear end, having to negotiate his way through the traffic and trying to close in on Steve Boyles, who's really got hooked up around this Silverstone national circuit. 1.64 miles. There is Boyles in car number 77, and what a terrific meeting he is having. If you look at his results, 3rd place, the best of the year, came in at round 2. He's always been up amongst it in the top 10. He had 1 retirement in the last meeting at Brands Hatch, and what better way to bounce back from that. As a spin again for Mark McKenzie, who gets back on track. So McKenzie was going for the win, so big problems for him. Through goes car number 63, Paul Moraviec, Swiss-based driver, enjoying his outing. And there's the leading production Boxster Class B car of Stephen Brown. Steve Potts a wee bit closer to him in this one, to be fair. I wonder whether they'll be moving up into the bigger, more powerful class for next year. And of course they've got the option of upgrading the car, or maybe going out and buying one that's already race prepared, and then of course the production Boxsters can feed their way down. Whichever way, the great thing about class racing is, from a television point of view, and indeed when you come to watch it on the race circuit, is that it promotes racing, because the faster of the slower spec cars generally get to race with the guys in the faster class who don't have as much experience. There is David Bierman still engaged in battle with Steve Boyles in front. They've got backmarker traffic ahead of them, which they should be able to negotiate by the time they get down to the end of the straight here. Boyles in 3rd, then looking for another podium. This is going to be, well, 2 podiums on the trot for him if he can hang on, but Bierman putting him under a lot of pressure. Bierman attracting the attention of the clerk of the course for using a little bit too much runoff from time to time. Whether that will result in any penalty remains to be seen. He'll certainly be giving a driving standards flag, although the flag as such tends to get put out as a general warning for all the drivers. They also get that in any driver's briefing that they have. 44, Arjo Josh. They're having a good battle with Nick Hull. Arjo Josh currently in 9th place, dicing with Nick Hull. We'll see if they can maintain their position after this short break.
Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Welcome to another episode of Racing No Filter. Joining me in sunny California, Bill Wood, and down in sunny Florida, Peter King.
We're going to take a look at some of the products HPD has created for the 2012 Honda Civic, and specifically we're going to show you how to install an adjustable sway bar.
Until then, folks out there, you take care.
Welcome back to Silverstone, on board with the man who won the 924s in race 1, David Hornsey, and we saw him lock horns with Mark McKenzie in the early stages of this race as they were dicing for the lead, and Hornsey trying to work his way through the field to see if he can get another class win. There, passing him, is the overall race leader, Richard Styron, on his way perhaps to a double, still ahead of Richard Sykes. And I tell you what, Styron looks even more comfortable in this race than he did in race 1. He's got the fastest lap of the race again so far, 106.796. Richard Sykes with the 106.8. So not too far between them, but Styron using his racecraft to negotiate the back markers, probably having a wee bit of fortune here and there as well as the back markers open up for him perhaps from time to time. There's the blue flag going out to tell the slower cars that are being lapped that they need to move out of the way, but David Hornsey trying to make his progress through the field. It's a big gap at the moment, back from Styron to Sykes. Still Steve Boyles in third place. There is David Hornsey, still having a good run. The other drivers that we need to check out, Anthony McVinsky, Simon Hawksley in with a shout as well, and Hornsey back at the top of the pack, really got that 924 running well. He's actually got a production Boxster and a Class A Boxster down behind him at present. So this has been very good stuff indeed from him. Looks really crowded as the cars make their way through Luffield, and Richard Sykes in the 21 car trying to negotiate the traffic, gradually picking them off one by one. Chris Valentine in the 88 machine gets past as well, the 48-year-old from Leighton Buzzard. Bought a Boxster in 2006 and went track daying. What a great step up from track day to come racing. It's a big culture shock, but it's worth doing if you can do it. There is the 26 machine running through. That's Bernie Printy, as we said, second meeting in the production box, the low fat version, but it's the full fats that are setting the pace again. There is the class leader. Damage on the 14 car. We saw the front of the machine, that panel, go up in the air earlier on. This has been a very dominant performance from David Hornsey so far this weekend. 2 poles, it looks like 2 wins, probably 2 fastest laps as well. His best lap, a 1 minute 12.152. So Hornsey we've seen passed by the leaders. I think we're going to see another 18 lap race for these cars. There's the production spec leader. It was 18 laps in race number 1, assuming you don't get any safety cars, and that will be the way of things, because they're 20-minute races, they're timed races. Encourages the drivers to behave themselves, because if you get a safety car, that eats into the 20-minute race time. Quick look at Linda Warren there in the 42 car, enjoying her racing the red 924. Linda finds herself a couple of laps adrift at the moment, still ahead of Steve Wolfe in the 86 car, but Richard Styron it is that is well clear. Look at the gap he's got back. The second place car, Richard Sykes, down behind Linda Warren at the moment. So the important thing here for Richard Styron is not to take his eye off the ball, heading around Copse and into Maggots now. Wonder if there's any more back marker traffic for him to deal with before he will potentially see his 5th win of the season. And as we said, he's, apart from the 2 retirements at Alton Park, he's really played into it well. I've seen drivers, as I think I mentioned on a previous programme, have the sort of start to the season that he had with non-finishes, and that can really get inside your head, and you think, well, 2 non-finishes, that's my drop scores, because you're allowed to drop scores in the championship. But he put that out of his mind, and since then has been on the podium every time, and in terms of the overall points has climbed up. On the net points, absolutely no problem at all with being on the podium every time, marking himself out as the potential champion here. And here he is again, up amongst the traffic. Wide racing line from Richard Styron, just past Philip Waters, the light blue car in the distance. He's passed another 924 as well. Back down the order, Adam Croft is running well. There is Adam in the Martini liveried car, who's got ahead of John and David Bierman. So real progress being made on the race. It's David Bierman still ahead of his brother John, but we're hearing a 5-second penalty is going to be applied to David's time. He's going to be very disappointed with that. Number 14, Hornsey, David Hornsey, right up amongst them. Well, being lapped by some of the Boxsters at the lower end of the top 10 just now. There is Arjo Josh in the 44 car. So Arjo, thankfully, looks like he's going to get it to the finish. The retirement so far in this race, Alistair Kirkham, Rebecca Jackson and Guillaume Gruchet after that first lap incident, which was a real shame. There's our 924 leader up amongst it once again. 18, Nick Hull. Great livery on Nick's car. Had generally in the top 10 is Nick. Had a disappointing Brands Hatch with a retirement in the second race, but got the car all fixed up and running well here, and about to put the pressure on. Let's see if he can make the move down on the inside as they come into Brooklands. A little bit far back on Arjo Josh to make that lunge. They're up against backmarker traffic to consider as well. Arjo using all of the circuit, as you can see. So Nick Hull makes it through, weaves his way through the traffic. A good pass by him, but the race leader's still there, Richard Styron. Over 5 seconds clear now of Richard Sykes in second position. This has been real full on for Styron, who is out front. Back we go to Mike Seller and David Bierman. Mike Seller in 5th place. Adam Croft, you can see ahead of him, and David Bierman goes through, puts the pass on Mike Seller in the 33 car. The Kent-based driver comes from Sittingbourne, so not the furthest of trips for him this weekend. Back to Styron, who takes the win number 5. A perfect weekend for him here. Didn't get pole in the first race, but he did get the win. He got fastest lap and takes it. Second position, 5.7 seconds down is Richard Sykes, but Richard Styron marking himself out. Now we go on board with David Hornsey, who had a monumental race with Mark McKenzie and has taken a second win in the 924s. Hornsey takes his second win. It's all going to be about wins now as the championship starts to wind down. Next time we're going to be at Rockingham. We'll see whether he can repeat the performance there. The production Boxsters again won by Stephen Brown, but here's the top 6 overall and the Boxsters. Richard Styron win and fastest lap. Richard Sykes second once again. Steve Boyle's on the podium again too, well done to him. Adam Croft, good drive into 4th ahead of Mike Seller, and John Bierman takes 6th place. David Bierman 7th after the 5 second penalty. Steve Brown wins the production from Steve Potts and Bernie Printy in 3rd place. David Hornsey wins the 924s again, this time from Simon Hawksley, and Tony McVinsky completing the podium. Let's catch up with the trophy winners down in the paddock.
It's so difficult to win a race without the right car, the right team, and luckily I'm racing from the sponsorship from Motor Novo, or I wouldn't be racing at all. We've had a perfect weekend. We've worked very, very hard because we were looking for tenths. The difference between myself and Richard Sykes was literally, we were talking tenths. So all weekend the team have searched little things, tyre pressures, settings on the car, and both races were great. Richard's team, I'm sure, have done the same thing. It's great for the series to be so close at the front, and we're absolutely delighted.
Well, not as eventful as the first one. Started in second, got a good start. Richard Styron got an excellent start, and the first 2 laps it just pulled that bit of a gap away, so I protected the car, didn't get much hassle from behind, and this is as fast as the car will go. The difference this weekend has been Richard's just been faster every session, just that little bit, 1/10 of a second every lap, and it just makes the difference. That's the difference. Car was good, I was happy with my driving, but just not quite quick enough.
Really good fun. Started in 3rd, managed to keep hold of it for the first 3 corners. I had David Bierman all the way alongside me, but managed to keep him off most of the race. He was hounding all over the back of me, but eventually just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Towards the end of the race, started to reel Richard Sykes back in. I think if I'd had another 2 more laps I'd have caught him, but that's the way it goes.
Really close racing. I had a good scrap with Simon and Mark. Simon was second on the grid and he beat me off the line to begin with. Quick car that in a straight line, so sort of tucked him behind him, had a good battle with Mark. Unfortunately we had a little bit of contact. He turned on me at Luffield on the first lap, which bent the steering out of whack, so I was sort of struggling with that for the rest of the race. And then when I did make the move for the lead down the inside, going into Brooklands, I moved to the inside and he decided to dive to the inside to cover the corner when I'd already committed to the bend, unfortunately. So we had little rubber panels and unfortunately he drifted out wide and I believe he spun off, which is a bit of a shame. So it was one of those last minute turn in when I wasn't expecting there to be the car there, so he took quite a different line to what he'd been doing on the previous laps, but then that allowed Simon to get back in front, and he was a good few seconds up up the road at that point, so I had to really push on and set some really good lap times. I was pleased with the lap times I was doing. Managed to catch him up, had a good dice with him, nice and clean, bit of passing, repassing, got in front of him and then pulled away a little bit, and then we were helped out with the traffic in the end when the Boxsters came round, the leading Boxsters came round to lap us. I just managed to get them through a bit more cleanly than he did, I think, and that's what created the gap at the end of the race.
The championship looks like this. Richard Styron leading overall for Richard Sykes. Jerry Taylor third. David Bierman fourth from Adam Croft. Stephen Boyles up into the top 6 after 2 splendid podia this weekend. The production's led by Steve Potts, Steve Brown in second and Bernie Printy third. The 924's led by Alistair Kirkham from Sean Siddle second and Simon Hawksley in third place. If you enjoyed that, join us next time at Rockingham Motor Speedway.